Today we're going to be talking about Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon is an open-world RPG in the style of something like Skyrim, so expect something like that, but it takes place in an entirely different setting, and it feels a bit more like older RPGs. So there's been a resurgence of retro-style RPGs, things like Lunacid, which feels similar to something Kingsfield, Dread Delusion, which has a similar style to Morrowind, and now we have Tainted Grail, which sits kind of between these retro styles and something more modern. So you can expect that is the level of experience that you'll have here, but with more modern systems, right? And that's a place that I really like exploring because it feels like they can be a bit more free to experiment especially when a company isn't under the shackles of some massive AAA publisher that expects millions and millions of sales, or they will shutter you. And this isn't the first game to be under the Tainted Grail moniker. There was previously a different game called Tainted Grail Conquest. It's a turn-based game. It's been received pretty well, and there's also a board game which has also done pretty well. It even has the exact same name as Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon. Though they aren't mirrored copies, just in a different format or anything like that, they have their own unique stories and ways that they play. Obviously, one being a board game, that would make sense. The world and story of Tainted Grail is very dark, so you can imagine something like what you would experience in the Dark Souls series, though different playstyle completely. Actually, something that I noticed right away was how similar it was to Planescape Torment or Baldur's Gate 2, especially in the way that it opens. You're in this dark, foreboding atmosphere right from the very start, and there's bodies around. You explore this prison where Red Priests did various experiments in order to learn about this disease called the Red Death. So you can imagine how that'll go and how extremely dark you get right from the start. It does a good job of setting you up for the initial part of the journey and preparing you for how very much dark fantasy the game will be. Especially when you can find these various crude implements of torture and experimental poking and prodding and all these things that these Red Priests did. And now there's walking forms in the hallways of the experiments themselves, shambling through the room. So definitely creepy. It's not a horror game though. It's just very dark fantasy. It sets up this bit of a mystery, and it really started me off curious about what I was going to be jumping into in the world, and made me want to explore more. You can expect a lot of the trappings of RPGs that you're used to here. Character customization, alchemy, magic, swords, daggers, all of these things. An entire inventory of things, equipment, all those systems, so there's going to be a lot of different loot to go through. It's meant to be played in first person, though it does have a third person option. That's something that they added very late in development, so don't expect it to be perfect, but I feel like that's a good expectation to have for Tainted Grail. It isn't going to be perfectly produced, no bugs, all this stuff. There will be bugs. There will be some jank here and there, but everything I've played in the game and in the demo is perfectly acceptable levels of jank. It's not something that is going to ruin your experience. And look, I love little bugs and little weird things that happen, as long as it doesn't ruin everything, right? I would say that the one thing I hope gets taken care of when the game comes out is what appears to be shader stutter. This is a thing, and it's something we've seen more and more recently. You can tell it's shader stutter because it only seems to happen the first time that you're using a spell or when you see a certain animation for the first time. So it's optimization. I feel like that can definitely be taken care of over time. Maybe loading shaders on first opening the game. For all I know, that's something they're already doing in 1.0, so we'll have to see if that's taken care of when it actually comes out. But like I said, I would expect a bit of growing pains in terms of things like that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. That's my expectation, because the game has a lot of other things going for it. They've already said Tainted Grail Fall of Avalon it's going to end up being like 50 to 70 hours in total, open world with 250 different NPCs, over 200 quests. So that's a lot of stuff to explore. There's bound to be some bugs here and there, right? All the systems feel pretty nice that I've played with. The combat is well done. It feels very satisfying, so as you get more and more spells and various equipment, that'll make it even more enjoyable as you're playing. Among those systems that I'm talking about, there are a ton of side activities that you can take part in. Things such as alchemy, cooking, crafting weapons, armor, and even fishing. So yeah, you can take your old rod out to the water, grab yourself some fish. So that's kind of stuff that you can expect to be in the game as well. It feels like the combination of all of these different systems layered on top of each other will give people a ton of different things to do. And for anyone that likes open world games, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for something that will keep you moving and keep you doing new and different things. At the time of this video coming out, the game has not yet released, but it does have a very positive rating on Steam. The early access has given people access to the first act of the game, and on release there will be 2 more acts that are coming out. So we'll see how those go and see what reviewers think about that whenever that comes out, and what, new players coming into it have to say about that. I personally have high hopes for it, though I always err on the side of caution when it comes to these sorts of games, because it can appear really awesome for the first act and then go to shit later, right? But I have hopes for it. I think it'll go pretty well. So that's it. I hope this gave you a bit of an expectation, an idea of what to expect from Tainted Grail: Fall of Avalon. It's an open world RPG with old school flair, dark fantasy setting, and it's filled with a ton of different lore that's based on Arthurian legends. So if that sounds like something you are into, then make sure to keep an eye on the release date, which is May 23rd, 2025. Thanks for watching.